The great hall of Eldrath Keep gleamed under the soft glow of hundreds of candles. Shadows danced along the stone walls, flickering across banners that told stories of kings, queens, and battles long past. The air was thick with the scent of roses and incense, and the hum of whispered excitement filled every corner. Today was a day the entire kingdom had waited for. Serene, the younger of the twin sisters, would marry Cale, the feared and powerful alpha of Eldrath. Lyra stood at the edge of the hall, her arms crossed, eyes fixed on her sister. Serene looked like a vision of light. Her gown was made of spun silver, delicate yet regal, and her golden hair fell over her shoulders like a river of sunlight. She moved with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. The guests murmured their admiration, their eyes following every step she took toward the altar. Lyra felt a familiar ache twist in her chest. She had always loved her sister, yes, but there was more than that. Something she could not name. Something dangerous and forbidden gnawed at her heart. Cale, standing tall at the altar, was a figure of power unlike any other. His dark hair fell to his shoulders, framing a face both handsome and intimidating. His eyes, cold and piercing, swept over the crowd with an air of command. And then, unexpectedly, they paused on her. Lyra felt a shiver run through her. She quickly turned her gaze away, pretending to admire the intricate carvings on the walls. But the sensation of his eyes on her would not fade. It was as if a thread, invisible yet unbreakable, connected them, pulling at her without permission. The hall grew quiet as the seer of the court stepped forward. Cloaked in deep violet, her face hidden beneath a hood, she spoke in a voice that seemed to echo through every heart present. The bond is not always chosen by the hand. Sometimes it chooses itself. Whispers spread through the hall like wildfire. Some guests exchanged nervous glances, others frowned with suspicion. Lyra's stomach knotted. Could it be? Could the prophecy spoken of since their birth be turning in a direction she had never imagined? Serene approached Cale, her hands trembling slightly as she knelt before him. The entire hall held its breath. Lyra felt her pulse quicken, a strange mix of fear and anticipation coursing through her. The alpha extended a hand toward Serene, but then paused. Every movement froze as his gaze drifted, lingering long, impossibly long, on Lyra. Gasps filled the room. The music faltered. Even the court seer's voice faltered slightly as Cale slowly knelt, not to Serene but before Lyra. For a heartbeat, the world stopped. Lyra could barely breathe. Her heart pounded in her chest, loud enough to drown out every sound around her. She wanted to look away, to step back, but some part of her could not. Cale's eyes met hers, deep and unreadable, filled with power and intent. Serene's face paled. "Cale?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Her hands clutched the folds of her gown, knuckles white with shock. Lyra's lips parted, but no words came. Her mind raced with confusion. This was impossible. This was her sister's moment, not hers. Yet she felt a thrill, a spark she could not deny. Her heart was no longer her own. It had been claimed, whether she wanted it or not. The seer's voice cut through the tension, soft but commanding. The alpha bows to the one who is bound to him by more than promise. Watch closely, for destiny moves with its own hand. Lyra's mind reeled. She wanted to protest, to run, to deny what was happening, but every instinct told her to stay, to see where this thread would lead. She could feel a strange warmth blooming in her chest, a sense of power she had never felt before. It was frightening and intoxicating all at once. Serene took a step back, her hand pressed to her lips. She looked at Lyra, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and sorrow. "Lyra, why?" she asked softly. Lyra shook her head, tears threatening to fall. "I don't know," she whispered. Even to herself, it was an honest answer. She didn't know. All she knew was the pull in her chest, the inexplicable bond that seemed to tether her to Cale. Cale's voice, low and steady, finally broke the silence. "Lyra," he said, his tone carrying weight that seemed to vibrate through the stone walls themselves. "The bond has chosen. Not her, not by chance. You, Lyra, are the one it calls." The hall erupted into murmurs and protests. Noblemen and women whispered to one another, their faces masks of scandalized shock. Some feared the shift in destiny. Others were simply bewildered. Serene sank into a nearby chair, her hands trembling as she tried to comprehend the betrayal she had not expected. Lyra wanted to speak, to defend herself, but the words felt hollow. How could she explain that her heart, her very soul, seemed drawn toward Cale against all reason. She didn't understand it herself. She only knew that something powerful, ancient, and terrifying had just begun to stir. Later, as the wedding festivities dissolved into uneasy murmurs, Lyra found herself alone in the garden, the moon casting silver light across the stone paths. She could still feel Cale's gaze, and she knew he would not leave her alone. The night air was cool, but her skin burned with the strange electric anticipation that had begun in the hall. Kyle appeared from the shadows, silent and commanding. "You should not run," he said softly, yet every word carried the weight of inevitability. "The bond calls, Lyra. It is stronger than fear, stronger than doubt. It chooses whether we understand it or not." Lyra swallowed hard. I cannot," she whispered, though even as she spoke she knew she could not deny it. The pull between them was undeniable, a force as old as the mountains, as relentless as the tide. Cale stepped closer, his presence overwhelming yet not threatening. "You do not have to understand yet," he said, "but the choice will come whether you are ready or not. The world will demand it, and so will I." Lyra's eyes filled with tears she could not shed. She wanted to believe she could step back, that she could let her sister live the life foretold. Yet some deep hidden part of her already knew that destiny had begun to weave a new story, one in which she and Cale were bound together, whether by love, fate, or some ancient magic she did not yet comprehend. The wind rustled through the garden, whispering secrets in a language she almost understood. Lyra felt a shiver run through her spine. This night, this moment had changed everything. Nothing would ever be the same again. And in the distance, from the halls of Eldreth Keep, Serene's voice called out, trembling and uncertain. "Lyra, what have you done?" Lyra did not answer. She could not. Her heart knew the answer, even if her mind did not. The Alpha had bowed, the bond had spoken, and the shadows of the future stretched wide and dangerous before her. A silver moonbeam fell across her face, and in its cold light Lyra felt both fear and exhilaration. Her life and the fate of those she loved would now follow a path she could not control. She was bound to Cale, whether by magic, destiny, or desire, and she was terrified to see where it would lead. And somewhere deep in the night a voice whispered, carried on the wind, "The bond chooses even if hearts do not yet understand." Lyra closed her eyes, the cool night air filling her lungs, and for the first time, she felt the impossible truth. She could never turn back. The day after the wedding, the castle of Eldreth Keep was shrouded in uneasy silence. The guests had left, the banners hung limp, and the echo of Cale's bow to Lyra still whispered through the halls. Serene wandered through the corridors, her mind a whirlwind of confusion and heartbreak. How could this happen? She had expected to marry Cale, to walk beside him as the Alpha's chosen, and yet in a moment that had stunned everyone, he had knelt before her sister instead. Lyra stayed in her chambers, staring out at the misty mountains beyond the keep. The early morning sun painted the peaks in soft gold, but it could not reach the storm inside her. She had not expected this. She had not wanted it. Yet Cale's eyes, intense and unwavering, lingered in her mind. A knock at the door broke her reverie. "Lyra," Serene's voice trembled as she stepped inside. She was dressed in the simple white gown of mourning for her lost dream, but her golden hair caught the sunlight, haloing her like a sorrowful angel. "We need to speak." Lyra turned to face her sister. Their eyes met, and in that silent exchange 1,000 words went unspoken. Lyra wanted to tell her sister that this was not by choice, that her heart was torn, that she did not want to cause pain. But how could she explain a feeling she did not fully understand herself? Serene's hands shook as she grasped Lyra's arm. "Tell me why," she demanded softly. Why did Cale bow to you?" Lyra swallowed hard. "I don't know," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I think it was the bond. The seer said it chooses who it will. Maybe it is me." Serene's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. "The bond?" she repeated. "Do you understand what that means? If the bond has chosen you, our family, our kingdom, everything changes." Lyra felt the weight of the truth pressing down on her. She did not want to hurt Serene, but she could not deny what had happened. "I don't want to hurt you," she said. "I never wanted this, but it happened, whether we understand it or not." Serene shook her head, turning away, her golden hair catching the light like a river of fire. "I have to see him," she said. I need to understand why Kale would do this. I need to know if it is my fault. Lyra nodded, though her heart ached. She knew the answer would not be simple. Kale was not a man to be swayed by guilt or reason alone. His choices were deliberate, powerful, and final. And yet, even as she spoke, Lyra could not stop the longing she felt, the strange, magnetic pull toward him that had begun the night before. The gardens of Eldrath Keep were quiet, save for the rustling of leaves in the soft wind. Kale stood beneath the shadow of an ancient oak, tall and imposing, yet his posture softened as Serene approached. He looked at her with eyes that were both gentle and unreadable, as if holding secrets no one could touch. "Serene," he said, his deep voice calm but firm. "I did not mean to cause you pain." Serene's hands trembled, but she held her chin high. "Then tell me why," she demanded. "Why did you kneel before Lyra?" Why not me?" Kale's eyes flickered to Lyra, who stood a short distance away, silent and tense. "The bond chooses," he said slowly. "Not by your heart, not by mine. It is an ancient force, older than the keep, older than your family. It calls to the one who is meant to wield it, and it has called to her." Serene's breath caught in her throat. She felt the walls of her world crumble. Everything she had dreamed of, the wedding, the future, the life she imagined with Kale, slipped away like sand through her fingers. "Her," she whispered. "Lyra?" Kyle nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Yes. Lyra has the strength, the spirit, the courage to carry what I cannot alone. You are my sister in spirit, Serene, but the bond does not lie." Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to speak, to explain, but Kale's words left no room. The power between them was undeniable. Every glance, every motion seemed to hum with an energy that neither time nor reason could break. She felt it pull at her very soul, and fear mingled with exhilaration in a way that was impossible to separate. Serene stepped closer to her sister, her voice softening. "Lyra, do you want this, him?" Lyra looked down, unable to meet her sister's eyes. She did not know. She had not wanted this, yet some part of her body and soul had already begun to answer. I don't know yet," she admitted. "I am afraid, Serene, but something inside me tells me I cannot turn away." Serene's lips pressed into a thin line, and she let out a quiet sigh. "Then you must be careful," she said. "Not just for you, but for all of us. If the bond chooses, it is powerful, yes, but it can also be dangerous. It does not yield lightly, and neither will he." Kale stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "I will not harm your sister," he said, his voice low and commanding. "But the bond will demand truth, courage, and sacrifice. She must be ready, and so must the kingdom." Lyra swallowed hard, feeling the weight of destiny pressing against her shoulders. She wanted to run, to hide in her chambers and pretend nothing had changed, but she could not. The thread connecting her to Kale was invisible yet unbreakable. She could feel it tugging at her, calling her forward, daring her to step into a world she had never imagined. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the garden, the sisters stood together, yet divided by forces they could not fully understand. Lyra felt a strange pull toward the horizon, toward a path she had never expected to walk. Kale's presence was like a storm and a flame at once, terrifying, consuming yet strangely protective. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying with it a whisper of the seer's words. The bond is not always chosen. Sometimes it chooses itself. Lyra closed her eyes, letting the words sink in. Perhaps she was not choosing this. Perhaps it was choosing her. The thought was frightening, yet a small spark of hope flickered in her heart. She had never felt so alive nor so terrified. Night fell, and the first stars appeared, shining like shards of glass against the velvet sky. Lyra felt the pull again, stronger now, as if the world itself were urging her to step into the unknown. She did not know what awaited her, what dangers, what passions, what trials lay ahead, but she felt certain of one thing. Her life, and the lives of those she loved, would never be the same. And somewhere deep in the shadows of Eldrath Keep, the ancient magic stirred, sensing the awakening of a bond older than time, older than prophecy. It whispered secrets only the brave or foolish would dare to heed. Lyra shivered in the cool night air, torn between fear and a strange, dizzying excitement. She could hear her sister's soft footsteps behind her, a reminder of the life and love that hung in delicate balance. Kale's eyes seemed to follow her even in the dark, and she knew that soon there would be no turning back. The future was uncertain. The bond was real, and the pull between them, between Lyra and Cale, was only beginning to make itself known. End of Part 2. Cliffhanger. The bond had chosen Lyra, but the consequences of that choice were only beginning to unfold. As night deepened and the stars shimmered above Eldrath Keep, Lyra felt a shadow stir in the distance, an ancient power awakened by the bond, one that would test her courage, her heart, and the love that was beginning to bloom. The forest of Ebonvale stretched endlessly, dark and whispering with secrets older than the mountains themselves. Mist curled among twisted trees, and the soft sound of water trickling over stones filled the air. Lyra stepped carefully along the narrow paths, her heart pounding, every sense alert. She had left Eldrath Keep under the weight of the bond and the strange pull that Cale exerted over her. She needed to understand the strange power stirring inside her before it consumed her entirely. The moon hung high in the sky, silver and cold, and shadows danced around her like living things. Every step seemed to echo in the silent forest, and the trees themselves seemed to watch her, their branches twisting as if reaching for her. Yet Lyra felt no fear, only a sharp thrill, a mix of fear and curiosity that burned in her chest. She could feel the bond to Cale even here, miles from the keep, tugging at her, reminding her that she could not escape it. Suddenly, a rustling sound made her stop. She turned, heart hammering, and saw figures emerging from the mist. They were not human. Their forms shimmered, translucent and ethereal, eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. The spectral guardians of the forest, whispered of in old tales, had come to test her. "You have entered the heart of Ebonvale," one said, voice like the wind through dry leaves. "You carry the bond of the Alpha. You must prove your courage, your strength, and your heart, or be claimed by the darkness that awakens." Lyra swallowed hard. I will do what is needed," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Tell me what I must do." The guardians moved as one, circling her in a slow, deliberate dance. "You will face 3 trials," they said. "The trial of courage, the trial of heart, and the trial of power. Only if you succeed will you be ready to accept what the bond demands." The first trial appeared as a shadowed path ahead. The trees twisted and grew taller, their branches forming shapes of beasts long thought extinct. Their eyes glowed with hunger, and the air was thick with the scent of danger. Lyra's heart threatened to give out, but she stepped forward, gripping a staff she had found at the edge of the forest. She had no idea if it would help, but she had to try. The shadow beasts lunged, and Lyra moved with instinct, dodging and leaping, using the staff to defend herself. The creatures were fast, almost unreal, but her resolve was stronger. She realized something. The bond was giving her strength. Every movement, every step felt more certain, more confident. Fear still lingered, but it was sharpened into focus rather than weakness. After what felt like hours, the beasts dissipated into mist, leaving her trembling but alive. The spectral guardians nodded silently. "You have passed the trial of courage," they whispered. Lyra exhaled, leaning against a tree. Her muscles ached, her lungs burned, but a strange pride bloomed within her. She was capable. She could survive this. And yet she knew the trials were far from over. The second trial began as the mist thickened, forming visions that danced before her eyes. Visions of Cale, of Serene, of Eldrath Keep, and of a shadowed throne. Emotions flooded her, desire, fear, loyalty, and guilt. She saw herself in Cale's arms, felt the warmth of his gaze, and yet also saw Serene's tears. The bond demanded a choice, not just of power, but of heart. Lyra fell to her knees, tears slipping down her cheeks. I don't want to hurt anyone," she whispered. The visions shifted, showing Cale in battle, risking himself for her, showing Serene alone in the palace, watching the world change around her. Lyra's heart ached with the weight of love, loyalty, and fear. She had to find the strength to face her feelings honestly, without denial, without hiding behind anger or jealousy. A soft voice, like the wind over the mountain peaks, echoed around her. "The heart is not weak. It is the source of your power. Accept it and you may move forward." Lyra closed her eyes and let herself feel. She admitted her longing for Kyle, her fear of losing her sister, and her desire to protect the kingdom. She let her tears flow freely, accepting the complicated truth of her heart. When she opened her eyes, the visions vanished, leaving her in a quiet, silver-lit glade. "You have passed the trial of heart," the guardian said. "Your emotions are no longer a prison, but a weapon. The final trial awaited her at the center of the glade. A stone pedestal rose from the ground, carved with symbols that glowed faintly in the moonlight. On it rested a crystal, humming with an energy that resonated through the forest. Lyra felt its pull immediately, a strange mixture of fear and excitement. The bond tugged harder than ever. "You must touch the crystal," the guardian said, "and accept the power it offers. Only then will you be ready to face what the bond demands." Lyra's hand trembled as she reached forward. The moment her fingers brushed the crystal, a surge of energy coursed through her body. She felt Cale's presence, strong and overwhelming, as if he were standing beside her. The forest seemed to pulse with her heartbeat. She felt the ancient magic flow into her, awakening something she had never known she possessed. Visions flashed before her eyes, scenes of battles to come, of shadows threatening the kingdom, of her standing beside Kyle, wielding the bond's power together. She gasped, staggering back, but she did not let go. She felt the fear, the uncertainty, and the longing all combine into a single, fierce clarity. She was ready. The guardians nodded, fading into mist. "You have passed the trial of power," they said. "You are now ready. But beware, the bond does not end with trials. It will demand courage, sacrifice, and truth in the days to come." Lyra stumbled to her knees, exhausted but alive. She had faced the trials of courage, heart, and power, and she had survived. But even as relief flooded her, a shadow loomed in the distance beyond the trees. Something ancient had awakened with the bond, a force tied to the Alpha's lineage and the destiny that had chosen her. She could feel it moving, waiting, watching. A soft rustle behind her made her turn. Cale emerged from the mist, his eyes filled with a quiet intensity. "You have done well," he said. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of mountains. "The bond will be stronger now. You can feel it, can't you?" Lyra nodded, unable to speak. The power inside her was overwhelming, a mixture of fear, excitement, and something deeper she could not yet name. Cale stepped closer, and for a moment the forest seemed to hold its breath. "You are ready," he said softly. "But the greatest trials are still ahead. Darkness stirs in Eldrath Keep, and soon it will reach for what is yours. You must return stronger than ever, or all may be lost." Lyra swallowed hard, her eyes fixed on him. I will," she said, though her voice wavered. The bond between them pulsed, a living thread that connected their hearts and fates. She could feel it pulling her forward, demanding action, demanding courage, demanding love she had not fully understood. Cale's gaze softened for a moment, and then he turned, disappearing into the mist as silently as he had appeared. Lyra remained in the glade, alone but changed, her body and heart humming with the energy of the trials. She knew the forest had tested her, had awakened her, and had prepared her for what was to come. But the shadow in the distance reminded her that the journey was far from over. Something ancient and powerful had been awakened alongside the bond, and it would not wait. Eldrath Keep, Serene, and Cale himself were all connected to her choices, and the weight of destiny pressed upon her shoulders heavier than ever before. Lyra rose to her feet, her gaze steady, and took a deep breath. The forest of Ebonvale was quiet again, but she knew it would never truly rest. She was ready to face whatever came next. The bond had chosen her, the trials had awakened her power, and the darkness would soon make its move. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the promise of challenges, battles, and choices yet to come. Lyra stepped forward, feeling the bond tug her toward destiny, toward danger, and toward the Alpha who had bowed before her in a world that had never imagined such a twist of fate. The halls of Eldrath Keep had never felt so silent. Lyra returned from Ebonvale with her steps light but her heart heavy, carrying the power she had earned through the trials. The walls seemed smaller, the banners duller, and the distant sounds of the castle, footsteps, murmurs, and the echo of doors closing, reminded her of the delicate balance she now had to maintain. She was no longer just the twin sister watching from the shadows. The bond had chosen her, the trials had awakened her, and the kingdom itself seemed to sense the shift. Serene awaited her in the garden, sitting on a stone bench under the old silver birch. Her golden hair glowed in the afternoon sun, but her eyes were dark with worry and a strange mix of hope and fear. "Lyra," she said softly, rising as her sister approached, "I can see. Something has changed in you. Ebonvale has awakened something, hasn't it?" Lyra nodded. "Yes," she said quietly. "I feel it in every part of me, strength, fear, and something else I can't name. The trials, They changed me, Serene. I understand the bond now. I understand Kale in a way I never could before. Serene's hands clasped together, trembling. And what does it demand of you? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. What does the bond want? Lyra looked out toward the mountains where the sky was turning a deep, dusky purple. It demands courage, she said. It demands honesty. And it demands action. The darkness is awakening, Serene. I felt it even in the forest. Something old, something powerful is stirring. It knows the bond has chosen me and it will not wait. Serene's eyes widened. The stories? The warnings? They were real, weren't they? Lyra nodded again. Yes, and we can't ignore them. The kingdom is in danger, Kale. He will help me. But even he cannot face what is coming alone. That is why the bond chose me. A rustle in the bushes made them both turn. Kale stepped into the garden, his dark eyes calm but full of intensity. Lyra, he said, his voice carrying across the quiet stone paths. You have returned stronger. Ebonvale has done what I hoped it would. But the trials are only the beginning. The darkness does not sleep and it grows closer every day. Lyra swallowed hard. She could feel the bond between them stronger now, humming like a living thing in the air around them. I know, she said. I can feel it, Kale. I can feel its presence. Waiting, watching. Kale's gaze softened slightly as he stepped closer. You have done well, Lyra. The bond is powerful and so are you, but the greatest challenge will not be in the forest. It will be here in Eldrath Keep, where shadows of the past and ambitions of the present collide. You must be ready. Serene stepped between them, her voice firm though trembling. Kale, tell me the truth. If the bond has chosen her, what does that mean for me? For us? Kyle's eyes flickered to Serene and he sighed, a sound heavy with the weight of responsibility. It does not mean you are less, he said.
It does not mean I care for you any less, Serene.
But the bond has a purpose and its choice is not to be questioned. Lyra carries the strength to face what is coming, and she is the one destined to wield it. That is all it means. Serene lowered her gaze. Her hands clenched at her sides, a mixture of heartbreak and acceptance washing over her. I understand, she whispered. I may not like it, but I understand. You are her destiny, Kale, and perhaps mine is only to watch and to protect her from what I cannot face myself. Lyra felt a pang of guilt and sorrow. She did not want to cause pain to her sister, but there was no turning back. The bond was real, and it was calling her forward. I will not fail, she said, her voice steady. I will protect the kingdom, and I will protect you, Serene, too. We are sisters, and no darkness can break that. Kale stepped closer, and the bond thrummed between them. We will face this together, he said. But first you must accept what you now hold. The power of the bond, the courage from the trials. You are no longer just Lyra. You are its guardian. And that comes with responsibility, Lyra nodded. She could feel the energy in her body, pulsing like fire beneath her skin. It was not frightening anymore, at least not entirely. It was alive, and it belonged to her as much as she belonged to it. But even as she embraced it, a shadow flickered at the edge of her vision. Something stirred in the keep itself, ancient and restless, sensing the power she now carried. The next day, the kingdom's council gathered in the main hall. Noblemen and women whispered among themselves, eyes darting between Kale and Lyra. Some were curious, some wary, others openly fearful. The Alpha's decision to bow before Lyra had already shaken the court, and her return with newfound strength only intensified the uncertainty. Kale addressed the council first, his voice strong and commanding. The bond has chosen Lyra, he said. It is not a whim or a passing fancy. It is the force that will guide us in the days to come. Darkness awakens beyond these walls, and she is ready to face it. You will all follow her lead when the time comes. A murmur rose among the council. And the Alpha? A lord asked cautiously. Is he no longer our protector? Kale's eyes flashed. I am still the Alpha, he said. But the bond is stronger than any of us alone. Together we will face what comes. But the choice of who leads the bond is not mine, nor is it anyone else's. It has chosen her. Lyra stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. She felt the bond surge through her, steady and sure. I will not fail, she said, her voice carrying through the hall. The trials have prepared me. The darkness may come, but I will face it, and I will protect the kingdom, my sister, and everyone within it. The bond is our strength, and together we will survive. The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling over the council. Some bowed in respect, others in fear, but all understood. Lyra had changed. She was no longer the twin who watched from the shadows. She was the one the bond had chosen, and with Cale at her side, she could face any threat. But even as confidence filled her, a shadow moved unseen. In the deepest corners of Eldrath Keep, ancient forces stirred, sensing the awakening of the bond. Whispers of old curses long dormant brushed against the stone walls. They were subtle, almost imperceptible, but Lyra could feel their pull. The trials had prepared her body and heart, but would they be enough to withstand the darkness that now moved against them? That night, Lyra returned to the garden. Serene followed, her steps quiet on the stone paths. "You are stronger than I ever imagined," Serene said softly. "But strength alone may not be enough. The forces you face, they are older than Eldrath, older than anyone here. You must be careful." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the silver moonlight. "I will be," she said. "The bond is with me. Cale is with me, and I have you. I will not let the darkness claim what we love or what we protect." Serene smiled faintly, her own heart heavy with the knowledge of her sister's destiny. "Then I will stand with you, Lyra," she said. "Even if it means standing in shadows, watching from the sidelines, I will not leave your side. You are my sister, and that is stronger than any curse or shadow that may come." As the wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of night-blooming flowers, Lyra felt the bond pulse with anticipation. It was alive, aware, and calling her toward the future, a future filled with danger, power, and impossible choices. Cale's presence lingered even when he was not there, and she could feel the threads of destiny tightening around her heart. From the far towers of the keep, a dark shape shifted in silence. It had been awakened by the trials, by the bond, and by Lyra herself. The ancient magic that had lain dormant was stirring, sensing a challenge, sensing a new force it had not faced in centuries. It waited, patient and calculating, for the moment to strike. And when it did, the kingdom, the sisters, and the Alpha would all be tested in ways no one could yet imagine. Lyra inhaled deeply, feeling the cool night air fill her lungs. She could no longer be just a girl who watched from the shadows. She was the chosen of the bond, the one the Alpha had bowed to, the one who carried the power to change the fate of Eldrath Keep. And she knew that soon. She would have to face the darkness, not just for herself, but for everyone she loved. The trials had prepared her body and heart, but the true test was coming, and it would demand everything she had to give. The dawn over Eldrath Keep was blood-red, painting the stone walls in fire and shadow. Lyra stood atop the highest tower, the wind tugging at her hair and the folds of her cloak. The bond pulsed through her veins, alive and insistent, linking her to Cale even though he was standing below in the courtyard. She could feel his focus, his strength, his determination, all pulling her toward the fight to come. The darkness had arrived. From the farthest shadows of the castle, an ancient presence rose, a figure of swirling black mist, eyes glowing with a cold, malevolent light. It had waited centuries for the moment to challenge the chosen, and now it moved with purpose, filling the keep with a suffocating weight. The very air seemed to tremble as it advanced. Serene appeared beside Lyra, her hand resting lightly on her sister's arm. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice steady but quiet. "This is the moment the bond prepared you for." Lyra nodded, her heart pounding. "I am ready, but we must be careful. It will test not just our strength, but our hearts, our courage. Everything." Below, Kyle raised his sword, the sunlight glinting off its steel. His eyes met Lyra's, and in that silent connection, the bond thrummed louder, vibrating like a living thing. "We fight together," he said. "No matter what comes, we are united. Trust in me, Lyra." Lyra inhaled deeply, letting the energy of the bond and her trials flow through her. She could feel courage and power mingling with fear and longing. The darkness descended, moving like a wave over the courtyard, and the first tendrils of shadow reached for them, twisting and writhing like serpents made of smoke. The sisters and Cale stepped forward together. Lyra's hands glowed faintly as the energy of the bond poured into her, forming a shield that shimmered like silver light. Serene's eyes flashed as she drew upon her own courage, feeling the bond's influence strengthen her. Even though the ancient darkness was vast, their unity made them formidable. The first strike came suddenly. A tendril lashed toward Lyra, seeking to engulf her. She raised her hand, and the shield flared, repelling it with a burst of energy. Kale moved with swift precision, cutting through the shadows with his blade, while Serene provided cover and support, her presence a steadying force beside her sister. The darkness recoiled and shifted, forming a massive figure towering, jagged, and impossible. Its eyes burned with ancient hatred, its form a storm of swirling shadow. It spoke, its voice echoing in every corner of the keep. "The bond is yours, mortal, but its power is not enough. You cannot stop what I am." Lyra stepped forward, her own voice steady and powerful. "The bond is stronger than any shadow," she said. "And it is not mine alone. Kale, Serene, we face this together. You cannot defeat us." The darkness surged forward and the battle erupted. Shadow and light collided, the courtyard alight with flashes of energy and steel. Lyra felt the bond pull her instinctively, guiding her movements, amplifying her courage. She dodged a strike that could have crushed her, retaliating with a blast of silver light that split the shadows like a knife through silk. Kale moved with unmatched precision, each swing of his sword guided by the bond and his own formidable skill. Serene, though not bound in the same way, wielded her strength and cleverness with grace, striking at the edges of the darkness, disrupting its form. Together, they were a force greater than any single element, their unity a shining counter to the creeping malevolence. But the darkness was ancient and cunning. It split into multiple forms, each a fragment of its terrible power, attacking from every angle. Lyra felt herself pulled in every direction, the energy of the bond straining against the sheer magnitude of the threat. She faltered for a moment, and one of the shadows lunged at her chest. A hand grabbed hers, Kale's, and the bond surged through them both, steadying her. "Do not falter," he said, voice strong. "Trust the bond. Trust yourself." Lyra drew in a sharp breath, letting the energy flow through her completely. She could feel her courage, her heart, and her power uniting. The shadow shrieked as she thrust her hand forward, sending a pulse of silver light through the darkness. One by one, the fragments dissipated, dissolving into mist, but the core remained, a towering form of swirling blackness, glowing eyes fixed on her. Lyra felt the bond thrumming violently now, almost as if it were alive, warning her of the final strike. She turned, her gaze meeting Kale's, and for a moment she felt the weight of every choice she had made, every trial she had survived. "Together," she whispered. Kale nodded. "Always." The bond flared, surrounding them both in a halo of shimmering silver energy. Serene stepped beside them, joining her strength to theirs. "We stand together," she said firmly. "No darkness can break our unity." The final assault began. Lyra and Kyle moved as one, their energy intertwining, striking at the heart of the darkness with everything they had. The shadow roared, its form writhing and twisting, but it could not withstand the combined power of courage, heart, and unity. Lyra felt the energy of the bond ignite within her, spreading through the courtyard, through the keep, through the mountains beyond. The darkness shrieked and faltered, its eyes wide with disbelief. "Impossible," it hissed. "No mortal, no bond, can stand against me." "You underestimate the strength of love, courage, and unity," Lyra said, her voice echoing with authority. "The bond is not mine alone, it is ours. And together, we are stronger than you." With one final concentrated pulse of energy, Lyra released the full power of the bond. The darkness convulsed, howled, and then shattered, breaking apart into fragments of shadow that dissolved into the morning light. The courtyard was silent once more, the only sound the soft rustle of wind through the trees and the steady, reassuring breathing of the three who had survived. Lyra sank to her knees, exhausted but exhilarated. Kale knelt beside her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he said softly. "You faced the darkness and you won. The bond, it is stronger than ever, and so are you." Serene knelt on the other side, her eyes shining with pride and relief. "You are magnificent," she said. "I never doubted you, even for a moment. You are not just my sister. You are the guardian of the bond, and the kingdom itself owes you its life." Lyra looked between them, tears threatening to fall. "We did it together," she said. "The bond chose me, but it brought us all together. We protected each other and the kingdom. That is what matters." Kale's gaze softened, the intensity giving way to something warmer, deeper. "Lyra," he said, "the bond has chosen you, yes. But it is more than that now. It has revealed who we are, what we are capable of, and I am yours if you will have me." Lyra felt her heart leap. The bond hummed between them, not just a force of magic, but of connection, trust, and love. She nodded, unable to speak for a moment, then finally whispered, "Yes, Kale." always. Serene smiled, a mixture of joy and bittersweet understanding. She had lost the place she had imagined in Kale's heart, but she had gained something far greater, a sister who had embraced her destiny and a bond that would protect them all. She rose gracefully, placing a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Go," she said. "Your life, your future. It is yours. The kingdom is safe and you are ready." The morning sun broke fully over Eldrath Keep, bathing the courtyard in golden light. The shadows of night and darkness were gone, banished by courage, unity, and the strength of the bond. Lyra, Kale, and Serene stood together, three hearts linked not just by blood and duty, but by love, trust, and the trials they had survived. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the bond settle gently within her, a living reminder of all she had endured. The kingdom was safe, the darkness defeated, and the future, though uncertain, was theirs to shape. For the first time, Lyra felt a profound sense of peace. She had faced fear, temptation, and destiny itself. She had survived the trials, awakened her strength, and proven that the bond, though ancient and powerful, could be wielded with heart and courage. And as she looked at Kale, his dark eyes steady and unwavering, and at Serene, her sister and ally, Lyra knew that this was only the beginning. The bond had chosen her, yes, but it had also chosen hope, unity, and love, and together they would face whatever future awaited them, unafraid and unbroken.